Optical illusions and strange visual phenomena are vivid evidence of how the human brain processes visual information, which is not always accurate. From seemingly rotating circles to illusory colors like the strawberry shortcake effect, our vision can be easily fooled by context, lighting, color, and movement. Phenomena like the Ames Room, spinning dancer, or McClough Effect are not only fascinating, but also reflect the brain's attempt to rationalize the world around it with familiar patterns. Understanding these illusions is not only visually interesting, but also opens the door to deeper exploration of human perception, attention, and limitations. So today's topic is 15 amazing optical illusions. Number 1 is the strawberry cake illusion, which is a fascinating example of a color perception phenomenon called color constancy. In this image, although the strawberries appear red, they are actually not red at all, but rather gray or green. Our brains automatically adjust and fill in color to keep familiar objects like strawberries appearing the correct color under a variety of lighting conditions. This effect helps us perceive consistent colors in the real world, but it also sometimes creates interesting illusions when the actual colors are completely different from our perception. Number 2 is the checker shadow illusion. It is an optical phenomenon in which two squares on a black and white checkerboard appear to be different colors due to the shadow of an object partially covering them. In the image, the square in the shadow of a green cylinder appears lighter or darker than the other square, but in reality both squares are the same shade of gray. This illusion illustrates how the brain uses light and shadow context to adjust how we perceive color and brightness, helping us distinguish objects in changing lighting conditions, but also fooling us with contrast and shadows. Number 3 is Ninio's extinction. Illusion is a visual phenomenon that makes it difficult to see all the black dots on a grid of gray lines. Although there are actually 12 black dots at the intersections, your brain can only focus on and see a few of them at once, while others seem to disappear when you look away. This is due to the combination of the central and peripheral vision in the eye, along with the way the brain processes color and detail, causing the black dots in the periphery to blur and blend into the background. This effect highlights the limits of human attention and perception when dealing with too much information at once. Number 4 is spinning dancer, a famous motion illusion that shows an animated image of a dancer spinning. However, viewers often see the dancer spinning in two different directions. Some see it spinning clockwise, others see it spinning counterclockwise. Many people even see the dancer changing directions constantly. This phenomenon occurs because the image is only two-dimensional, lacking depth cues for the brain to accurately determine the direction of movement. Therefore, the brain has to guess and can switch the perception of the direction of rotation, creating a sense of uncertainty and excitement for the viewer. Number 5 is the self-healing grid, an optical illusion in which a grid that is broken or incomplete at the edges of an image gradually heals itself and appears to be a complete grid when you focus your gaze toward the center. This occurs because the brain automatically fills in and completes missing details based on surrounding information, creating a continuous and orderly image. This illusion illustrates how the brain prioritizes neatness and coherence in its visual processing, sometimes leading to self-deception in order to fill in gaps in vision. Number 6 is illusory motion, a phenomenon where a static image appears to be moving. This happens because the contrast of colors and the layout of shapes tricks the brain into perceiving movement even though the image is not actually moving. A common example is circles or patterns of contrasting colors arranged in a way that appears to rotate or shake when you look at them for a long time. This illusion shows how the brain processes complex visual information and can be tricked by subtle visual elements into giving us a false sense of reality. The number 7 is the hearing illusion, a visual phenomenon that causes straight vertical lines to appear curved or warped, even though they are actually straight. The illusion is created by rays of light or radial lines emanating from a central point, confusing the brain about the true shape of the lines. The theory behind this phenomenon is that when looking at an image, the brain is trying to predict movement or change in space based on the signals it receives, causing the lines to appear warped in perception. This is an interesting example of how the brain processes and predicts visual information, leading to distortions in the way we see images. Number 8 is The Ambassadors, a famous painting by the young Hans Holbein, which is notable for its anamorphic perspective. At the bottom of the painting, there is a distorted image that is difficult to understand when viewed straight on, but when viewed from a certain angle or height, the image is clearly a human skull. This technique forces the brain to adjust the perspective to recognize the hidden image, illustrating how human vision depends heavily on perspective and context to understand what we are seeing. This is a classic example of an optical illusion in art, combining creativity and visual science. Number 9 is the color contrast illusion, or Munker-White illusion, shows how the surrounding colors affect how we perceive the color of an object. In this illusion, a series of balls of the same color are placed on a striped background of red, green, and blue. Although the balls are all the same color, because the background is different, the brain perceives each ball as a different shade of color. This happens because the brain tries to compare the color of the ball to the color of the surrounding background, causing us to see the color as being changed in a misleading way. This effect illustrates how color and context interact in the brain's visual processing. The number 10 is the Ames Room, an optical illusion that creates a false sense of size when viewing a specially designed room. Through a small peephole, the brain perceives the room as a regular shape, but in reality, the walls, floor, and ceiling are tilted and distorted. As a person walks from one side of the room to the other, they appear to change size irregularly, sometimes larger, sometimes smaller. This effect occurs because the brain relies on familiar spatial assumptions to judge size, which trick it into being fooled by the room's irregular shape. The Ames Room is a prime example of how perceptions of space and scale can be strongly influenced by visual context. Number 11 is Troxler's fading, an optical illusion that occurs when you focus on a fixed point for a long period of time. The details around that point of view, especially areas of constant color or texture, gradually fade or disappear from your vision. This happens because the brain discards unimportant, unchanging visual information in order to focus on new changes, reducing the overload of information. Troxler's fading is an example of how the brain processes and prioritizes visual information and is often used to explain why we do not see static details in our surroundings continuously. Number 12 is the balls in a circle illusion, a fun example of how simple motion can fool the human eye. Initially, the viewer sees white balls moving around a blue circle, appearing to rotate in a circular motion. However, in reality, the balls are simply moving back and forth in a straight line, but they are arranged out of phase with each other in time. When combined, this linear motion creates the illusion of circular motion. This is a technique often used in animation to create the illusion of complex motion from very simple elements. Number 13 is the stepping feet illusion, which shows how the brain is fooled by color and contrast. In this effect, two red and blue rectangles move horizontally against a black and white striped background, but appear to be walking in jerky motion. In reality, they are both moving at the same speed, but the contrast between the color and the background makes the movement appear to be false. This illusion illustrates how our perception of motion is not only based on reality, but also on the visual context around us. Number 14 is the McClough Effect, a strange optical illusion involving long-term color adaptation in the optic nerve. When a viewer alternates between horizontal red stripes and vertical green stripes for a few minutes, the brain learns to associate that color with the direction of the stripes. Then, when the viewer looks at a regular black and white striped pattern, the viewer will still see red or pale green, even though the image is colorless. What's special is that this effect can last for hours, even months, after just one exposure. Although known since 1965, the exact mechanism of the McClough effect has not been fully explained by science, making it one of the most mysterious and difficult to explain visual phenomena. Finally, the lilac chaser is a famous optical illusion that demonstrates how the brain processes motion, color, and space. In this effect, 12 lilac circles are arranged in a circle and periodically disappear. When the viewer focuses on the center, they see a green dot moving around the circle, even though there is no green dot. This phenomenon combines three visual effects. Phi phenomenon, the perception of motion when there is none afterimage, the creation of green in response to the opposite effect of purple and color adaptation. The purple circles gradually disappear, leaving only the moving green dot.
Subscribe to TopList 24 hours to learn more and watch some of our other popular videos. Thank you very much.